everybody. It's our first time. It's our first episode. I am Tanyalee Davis, little person comedian, Guinness World Record holder for the shortest comedian in the world. And this is my dad, Kato.
Hi there. I'm Kato Davis. And we're hopefully going to entertain you with some of the stories that we think you'll enjoy. They're stories from all over the world that both collectively and individually we've experienced, and believe me, we have experienced a lot, right?
What do you do for a living, or what did you do for a living, Dad?
Well, I started out as a bush pilot up in northern Canada.
In the 70s, my mother had a huge bush.
And yes, that was after my career in the military, and I was in naval intelligence, which some people, and most people, say that's the greatest oxymoron known to man. But after I completed my naval service, I became a bush pilot. Up in my first job was in Red Lake, Ontario, which is in northwestern Ontario, and about 6 years doing that. From there, I went to the airlines. Whoa, Air Canada. And I spent 33 years at Air Canada, retired, and then I started my third career, which was I'll call it a pilot of fortune, if you will. And I just decided to hang it up a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and because my dad was an airline pilot for my first 33 years of my life, I got free airfare. Yippee! So this was back in the 70s and 80s where kids were free-ranged. And so my parents got divorced when I was quite young. So Dad lived in Ontario. I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba with my sister and with my mom. And we would go visit you. But we got free airline passes. But back in the day, you just put your kid on a plane and be like, all right.
Yeah, but don't forget to tell them that you rode in the luggage bin up above.
Overhead. Yeah.
That was the cheaper one.
Yeah. But back in the day, I could fly in the cockpit, too.
That's right. Yes, I had you up there many times.
Yeah, one of the scariest flights I ever took was when you were flying, I think. Well, no, because there was an electrical storm. And people don't realize that when you're in a cockpit, you can see all the bibs and bobs there and all the screens. And so when you're in the jump seat, you're sitting in the doorway and you've got the pilots up here and you're sitting in the doorway. So when they open the door, the flight attendants, you're like sitting in their way. So you can see everything as a person in the jump seat. So there we are going through the electrical storm, and you can see all the bits of lightning just coming up, and you're...
Well, it was underneath us mostly.
Yeah, but it was
when you talk about being in the seat, that's peculiar to different that was the DC-9.
Oh, okay.
When that is when the jump seat sits right in the doorway. On bigger aircraft with larger cockpits, the seats are to the left and right right behind the pilot or the first officer or captain. So but on that particular one was the DC-9.
And I think that same flight, because pilots give commentary or whatever, and they were loading the luggage onto the plane, and they had a crate that had a dog, and the dog got out and started running around the tarmac, and you got on the intercom, and you're like, Lassie's on the run, or something like it. Had everybody in stitches. So if there's any question where I get my sense of humor, hello.
Well, that I can remember having mice years ago. They kept the mice up in the back of the aircraft because of the temperature, and there was a box of white mice, probably 30 or 40.
Like lab mice or something you're transporting?
To labs, and they got loose in the airplane. And thankfully, we were still on the ground.
Oh my God.
And because you've heard that, people screaming. Well, there's mice up and all through the aisles. Things happen, as Forrest Gump says.
Yeah, you got to roll with the punches there.
So, but again, these are kind of these musings that we are, and it's all off the cuff here. We don't have a script, so
that's what this podcast is all about, is just having the sharing our stories of our life travels together and separately. And also, my dad, it's unexpected that I'm a little person at 3'3" tall and you are 6 feet tall, and you created this dynamic powerhouse that you would probably want to bury me. Anyway, put me back. But so I was born in 1970 and the firstborn. So, I mean, what was your thoughts on first having your first child, and then to find out?
Tanya, I was flying as a bush pilot then, and I was flying out of a city called Thompson, Manitoba.
Not exactly a city.
A city. Well, it was a mining town, and redneck, drink all night, work all day in the mines. That was the mentality of Thompson in those days. It was a boom town as well. They had a nickel mine there. Nickel is it's not a precious metal, but boy, it's used for everything. And it was also pretty well the end of the road for that area. So we would the aircraft were all staged there, and we would supply the reservations, and we go as far up into Churchill, Manitoba, and some of the places north of that even, to supply medical needs, nurses, doctors, evacuations, food supply, lumber, you name it, we hauled it. So but when you were born, it was November, the end of November, which is in a place like that, the dead of winter.
Yeah.
Probably, I can't remember what it was, but it was probably minus 20 or so outside.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Well, they're getting pretty close. At minus 40, they're the same.
It doesn't matter,
And your mother decided that she would go into labor, and I think we were like hour 30 of intense labor. I mean, she was going through a lot, and they were inducing her.
I had a massive head, by the way. I looked like Humpty Dumpty when I came out, so that's why I ruined her vagina. I'm just saying. Anyway, she still holds a grudge. Go ahead.
But so they had her. Finally, it got to one evening where it was around supper time, and your mother decided that it's happening. So I took her. In those days, you went to the hospital, so we went to the hospital, and she stayed there. I think it was probably another 6 or 8 hours. But of course, I get hungry, and so I went
all this
over.
intense stuff you're doing.
Well,
working up with
I'm having to watch your mother scream and yell and all this kind of stuff. It makes me hungry. So I went out and got a cheeseburger and fries, and she's in the bed there, and I'm going, do you mind keeping it down, please? I'm trying to eat. So and then finally you arrived. Oh my God! And so that was it for the night, pretty well. And
okay. So not only was I born in a small community, and being with a difficult birth, but then the doctor actually did realize that there was a concern.
Yeah, right? It was your short arms and legs compared to what she's used to.
The proportions were off.
But she didn't know. Well, if she knew what, I'm sure she had a pretty good idea. But I doubt that she had dealt with a lot of dwarf babies. So, if any. So she knew there was something. And, of course, she immediately jumped to the conclusion that, this isn't going to last.
Yeah, she said, you're not going to make it through the night.
So I did. They had the for sale sign on you right away. That's right. Out the door. We're out of here.
Yeah.
And it went from there. I mean, we ended up moving to Winnipeg to seek medical help, and nothing.
That's a story, though, right, in itself, right? Because you flew, Mom and I, from Thompson, but not just to Winnipeg, right?
We had to make a stop because it actually was, not to put the horse before the cart or cart before the horse, a trip came up for me to go to a Indian settlement called Sandy Lake, Ontario, which was near the Manitoba border, north of Red Lake. And so they said, we need you to swing by, go to Sandy Lake and pick up a child who is, the nurse feels has spinal meningitis and is on its deathbed. So it was at nighttime, and in those days we had no runways. It was winter, and we landed on the ice. But it was a full moon, and the weather was clear the whole west was just nothing but clear and snow. It was like daylight.
Oh, wow.
So I said, this is a chance to get you to Winnipeg. And your grandmother lived down south of Winnipeg, so when your aunt was there. Anyway, we had some place for you to stay, and I loaded you two in the airplane. You were just like this big, and we flew to Sandy Lake, and we picked up. They were going to send a nurse, which they really don't like doing because the nurse is the only person in the reserve that has any medical training. But your mother agreed to watch the baby that had the meningitis, so she held the baby, and the nurse didn't have to go. And from there, we flew to Winnipeg, and the ambulance met us there. And
you were like an Uber. It was like an airplane Uber.
Yeah, it was a Cessna 206 on wheel skis.
And if you can start that type of service now, that would probably come in handy for Ubering people around with your airplane.
Well, they still do. I mean, medevacs, that was a medevac flight, and medevacs go on every day, worldwide. I mean, it's just the fact of life that people get sick in areas, or they get sick. They're in a populated area, but the hospital that happens to be near them is not a trauma hospital, so they have to, and might have to go 100 or 200 miles. So we got you to Winnipeg, and
I spent a good deal of time at the Children's Hospital. I do remember that because I had croup. So I have a form of dwarfism called diastrophic dysplasia, and all diastrophic dwarfs have average-sized parents. And so my dad being 6 feet tall, my mom's about 5'6", and each type of dwarfism has its own sort of physical characteristics. So when I was born and the doctor saw me, my proportions were off. I'm shaped like a wiener dog. So I got the long body trunk, short arms, short legs. And then I end up with like croup cough, which is like almost like a pneumonia chesty cough. And I remember you guys always having to lock me in the bathroom.
Well, you were bringing up through your nose.
What?
When you would cough, everything would come up out of your nose, not your mouth.
Is that because my cleft palate?
Right. That we didn't. No one twigged that you had a cleft palate at first. It wasn't until you got sick and you started spewing out through your nose. They're going, how's that? I mean, it can happen, but not to the extent that you were. And then they decided to look in your mouth. Oh,
big gaping hole.
Big hole. So they got the Play-Doh out, and
Mom said I was in a straitjacket. They put me in a straitjacket.
They had your arms, so you get your, of course, every kid
wants to put their hands in their mouth, so they tied me up.
So you were like that for a couple of weeks.
That's where my bondage career started. That's how it all began.
Not in front of your father.
That's where I get it from.
So that whole, I transferred my flying from the same company, but they allowed me to transfer to Winnipeg, and I went down and I got checked out on the DC-3 and started flying the DC-3 out of Winnipeg, back north, but out of Winnipeg. So you could be at the hospital and looked after.
Yep. And so as a parent of, clearly first child and then a child with a disability, the 70s was a different time than it is currently, where people get like, oh my God, and they get coddled. But, you and Mom were just kind of like, all right, right?
Well, yeah, we were hit with a kind of a double whammy in a sense, in that, we were in our early 20s, and you're stuck being a parent. Not stuck, but you become a parent, and it's not as if you go to parent school.
Yeah.
And which I believe they should teach something in school, but they don't. So we were that, and now all of a sudden we have a child with a potential disability, and you're going, oh my God! To be honest with you, I don't think I'd ever met a dwarf in my life.
Yeah.
Now I got one. I got my very own.
Very own dwarf.
So, the first thing I thought about was, wonder what the circus will be in town.
And make some money off this bitch.
You gotta pay the bills,
Right.
So, but no, and again, even a city the size of Winnipeg, which is not large compared to, say, New York or Los Angeles, but it was a fairly big city, and with numerous hospitals, and they. But I got the distinct feeling they knew nothing about dwarfs. So it was a learning experience, not just for us and for you, but it was for the medical staff as well. And there were some hits and misses along the way. And, of course, there was, how did this happen?
Right.
And, everyone had an idea, but nobody could come up with something definitive. And until we did some research.
Yeah, well, because, people didn't realize it's a genetic mutation. And now, because of all the genetic testing and stuff, they've really been able, that's what I said, 517 different types of dwarfism. Before, they were like, oh, there's like 4 or 5. Now there's so many, and they're getting so specific, and, each have their own issues and health stuff, and, but there's so many common misconceptions. And, of course, back then, they're very, and the first thing is short lifespan. And people come up to me all the time going, I've never seen an old one like you before. Thanks, asshole.
Well, there's lots of them around.
Yeah. So.
What type of, you get the wrestle dwarfs? Is that a name that they give dwarfs, or wrestle dwarfs?
Well, those are typically the people with achondroplasia, which is the most common type of dwarfism. They're the tall ones, the ones with the bigger heads, and they're bow-legged, but they're very stocky. And so most of the dwarf wrestlers that I've seen have been acons. We call them acons for short, achondroplasia. So, cool. It's interesting. And
so, as you grew up, give us a little idea of how you. Coped.
Being the only little person, and then. So 5.5 years after I'm born, you guys get drunk and have my sister. And, right?
No, I was doing hard drugs by then with your mother.
Yeah, and so
sorry.
You must have bumped each other too close in the hallway. But anyway, somehow my sister was born, and so once again, my 2 tall parents had another chance of having a dwarf. Did you guys ever discuss that?
Oh yeah. In fact, I had the coat hanger in my hand at one point. No, I'm just kidding. They gave us. The doctors were quite concerned, and they put their serious face on, and you realize, of course, that you have a 1 in 4 chance of having another dwarf. And of course, we're oh my God, another one. So, but as it really, when we discussed that, it was, it's really not that bad. I mean,
she's still here.
Little did we know.
Yeah.
But and I'm not a big fan of abortion, and that was the alternative. And, your mother, I don't believe, was either. So I think we were talking then. I'm not sure, but
it's funny because I've had I know many people who were pregnant with little people, or were the baby, and their parents were told that they should abort and stuff. So that's even in the last 10 years, which there's been so many medical advancements, but I know people that were told that their child probably would not make it, like their lungs are outside of their body in vitro, and they probably won't have a life, and then they're born and they're fine. I mean, they're still to say, but it's just the medical people like to scare everybody, as I think.
Well, exactly. And again, you know, and I'm not a religious person, but I don't believe I have the right to determine who lives or dies. And basically that's what they were telling your mother and I is, you know, you're quite legal to have the baby aborted. And, but we decided against it, and Jill was born, you know, I hate to use the word normal, but, you know, she was as tall as can be. I mean, you know, perfectly
average size baby.
Proportion.
Yeah, and as we lived on North Lake Drive in Winnipeg, it was a U-shaped, and I have such fond memories, because I don't have a lot of memories of you and Mom together. I mean, because I was like 6.5 when you got divorced. But that street had such a lovely group of families, and we would have block parties where you'd block off the ends of the streets, and all the neighbors.
Every summer we had one.
Yeah, neighbors would come out with music and like a big, huge picnic and games, and just so all those kids that were roughly around my age never pointed at me, never singled me out, never said you look different. So in my mind, I was just a regular kid with all of those kids. And it wasn't until I started school, kindergarten, where they started, you're a midget. Look, there's a midget. And I was like, where? Because we never used that term midget, right?
No,
Dwarfs, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs were cool back then, right? So they were great role models. They had a job. They had some chick cooking and cleaning for them. You know, one was a doctor, so I had something to aspire to. But then, then all of a sudden I start hearing this word midget at school, and I didn't realize that, that I just thought the kids were swearing at me or something.
Yeah, I remember you heard the little girl next door, I forget her name now, but she came over one day and she was flustered and, I don't know whether I should tell you this or not. And your mother goes, what's going on? Well, the kids are picking on Tanya at school. And so she got it all out of this little girl that they were calling her names. And, well, that did it. I mean, your mother was a lot of things, but boy, I'll tell you, she wasn't going to let someone do that to her daughter. And she stomped off the next morning to the school when you were there, and she read the riot act to the principal. The principal, in turn, read the riot act to the teachers, who in turn read it to the students. And sometimes I think that was the worst thing that they could have done, because next thing you know, they're opening doors for you.
Falling over backwards to help you.
Yeah, everyone's helping you, and you're not doing anything for yourself. So you were the little princess.
Still am.
Exactly.
Things haven't changed.
The prima donna.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, so I lived very close. We lived very close to the elementary school, Lakewood.
5-minute walk.
Yeah. However, when you've got dwarf legs and in the winter, right? It was too far of a walk. So, of course, Winnipeg, 10 months of snow, 8-foot snowbanks, and I've got to wear a snowsuit. And I looked like the kid in the Christmas Story movie. I wish I had
pictures of you.
Yeah.
It was like your arms straight out,
a Michelin baby.
Snowsuit, one-piece snowsuit, zip, and
a 20-foot scarf wrapped around nothing but
exactly. Just eye hole slits like
and
this.
And I'd try to walk, and I'd make it 2 feet and fall down.
Couldn't get up.
So I just get dragged.
Kick you down the street.
Yeah. So then what we did was they decided at wintertime the school bus would come pick me up and take me to school. The problem is I was in the city, so the school bus had to come pick me up before it went out to the country to pick up the kids and bring them into the city. So I got picked up at 10 to 6 in the morning to go to school. I sometimes got there earlier than the janitor, Mr. Rigsby, by the way, lovely man, recently passed away, I think. Mr. Rigsby, sometimes the school bus would drop me off in a snowbank because it was a long walkway to the front doors of the school. The school bus would drop me off. I'd sit on the snowbank if we had a massive snowstorm, and Mr. Rigsby would have his snow blower, and he'd have the snow blow, and I'd just sit there and wait for him, and they'd and he'd do one trek so that I could then walk in. He'd finish up the pathway. I'd sit in the school. Then he and I'm alone with this man in this entire school.
Ooh.
And yeah, good thing
That's where it started.
he wasn't dodgy, thank goodness, Mr. Rigsby. And we'd go in a dark room together.
Oh, God.
First of all, we'd go around. I'd sit on this little cart, and he'd wheel me around the school, and we'd pick up the chalk brushes. And we'd load all the chalk brushes onto his little cart. Then we'd go into this dark room, and I would hand him the chalk brushes. And he'd take the chalk brushes, put it on like a machine that would suck all the chalk off them, and then we'd put them in the machine. And so and then the principal around 7:00 would show up, and then I'd have to sit in the office and do my homework. She'd give me hot chocolate, which usually gave me diarrhea. And of course, back then I had issues going to the toilet, so I'd always have to be careful.
Get out of that snowsuit, I can imagine. Whoops.
But I remember getting in trouble because I used to fall asleep in class. But it's because I was at school at 6:00 in the morning, and school didn't actually start till 8:30.
Did the janitor let you toast? That's an in joke.
Yeah, not that time. But
okay.
So anyway, that was my childhood. Sitting there, I remember getting there so darn early, but I'd be falling out at lunchtime. I couldn't keep my eyes open, and getting in trouble. It's like, well, but that was the only way they could do it to get me to school on time. I
remember, my sister and her husband moved to an apartment in Winnipeg. He was flying up north with me, and we went down to, it was a basement apartment, and the windows right at the sidewalk level.
Oh, yeah.
And out front, they had one of these bicycle racks, but it was not one where you put the
front wheel in, right?
It was just went like this and like that, and you put your chain around it. Yep. And you discovered that. And it was summer, and I watched you, and you went over to this thing, and you sort of stared at it, and then you got under like this. It was about this high on you.
Yeah.
And you got back, and you went, and you swung, and you were swinging back and forth, and you'd move over, you swing, and you go the whole length of this thing, turn around and come back again. You always wanted to go back to visit my sister so you could swing on this thing. It was the only place we ever saw one of these types of.
So it was like a kid's jungle gym at the park, but it was my size kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it wasn't a jungle gym.
Right. So that actually reminds me of when we went to one of your friends' cabins at the lake, and I just remember the lake had the slugs, the leeches, and we were all down at the lake, and then you guys were like, "Where's Tanya?" And I was back at the cabin because one of the outside door of the cabin had like one of those creaky screen doors that would slam shut, but they had a handle on it that was my size. So apparently I just spent most of the afternoon going in and out of the door and not even at the lake, but this was my first time ever opening a door for myself. Yep. And I spent the whole time going in and out.
Yeah, we'd go up to Kenora, which was about a 2 or 3 hour drive from Winnipeg. And but the other place was going down to your grandmother's place
in North Lake,
in Middleborough.
Oh yeah, grandma. Yeah, my maternal grandma.
You enjoyed that immensely.
Oh. When you're a kid, a 2 hour, like living in Winnipeg and driving to southeastern Manitoba, 2 hours as a kid in a car with no iPads, like you're playing. Yeah, you're at the mercy of your imagination. I spy with my little eye, and you guys did your best, but it felt like an eternity going to grandma's when you're a kid. And
driving with your mother was always an eternity.
There, and of course, then I didn't. Yeah, that was out in the country, and so there's only one. My friend Sherry was my only person my age.
That's right. Yeah, but there was all the cows and pigs and horses and
they give the farm. The farm was pretty much done by the time I remember the dog Sporty. They had a wiener dog, so I used to crawl into the dog house.
First Sporty was like a German Shepherd mix of some sort.
Was that the first Sporty?
The first Sporty that I ever saw.
Yeah, because they kept naming the dogs the same thing.
Sporty, yeah.
But usually the collies were Lassie or Laddie.
Sporty is the only one I remember.
Oh, okay, because they did.
But yeah, your grandfather had retired from farming, and Then your great-grandmother,
Babunya.
she lived in a little, it would be like mini houses. It probably wasn't much bigger than this room.
Yeah.
And just had a little bedroom that just with a single little bed in it. It was like a closet.
Oh, wow.
And she had a bed in it. But the cooking, I mean, this whole town was Ukrainian for the most part. Not completely, but I would say 95% of them. The other group that they had, which was probably the other 5% or so, were Hungarian. And there was a Hungarian couple that would make sausage. Oh, I got to tell you, the Ukrainian food. The Ukrainian food was like unbelievable. Your grandmother would cook, and then your great-grandmother would cook. But your great-grandmother had a specialty, and she made her homemade booze. Well, so did your grandmother. But Babunya would make this strawberry liqueur. Oh, wow. And I don't know what she put in it, but it was fresh strawberries that she grew in her garden, and she'd ferment them and other stuff. And I remember the first time she ever gave me a drink of this stuff, and it just about took my head off. It was delicious.
Proper moonshine.
Yeah, it was moonshine.
Yeah.
But when your grandparents bought that farm, which was long before I ever married your mother, it came with its own still.
Oh, wow.
They found a still in the barn.
Big jackpot.
And so Nellie, your grandmother, Nellie decided, even though she didn't drink, that I'm not going to let a still go to waste. Right. And she taught herself how to use it. And they lived on a little hill. You're Manitoba, so everything is flat. But this thing was maybe, 30 feet above the rest of the town. Mm-hmm. And Nellie would get in there and fire up the still in late November, and she'd start bottling this hooch. And it was basically a vodka. And she'd save up bottles all year.
A vodka.
Vodka, yeah. Vodka make you vomit. And she'd make this stuff. It was crystal clear. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. And I mean, you could taste it was booze, but it didn't have any real flavor to it other than a bite. And I can remember slipping it into the punch when nobody knew. They're all teetotalers there. And all of a sudden, we went from the church group to having a lot of fun. But yeah, it was good down there on that. But you loved it. I know you didn't like the trip down, but
yeah. Well, I loved the town. The memories that I have of Middleborough is, the little church. I mean, the church had 8 pews, 4 on either side. There was the English church and then the Ukrainian church. That was the worst. Going to any of the services of the Ukrainian church was like 4 hours long. There's no air conditioning. You're just like, and you just don't understand what this dude's saying. And he's got this weird incense shit and a weird popey hat. And then the town hall where they would always have dances and stuff. Yep. The wood floors. Sherry's uncle was part of the band. Yes, and right. It was like the proper accordions and banjos.
We had our wedding reception in there.
Yeah. And I loved the New Year's dances, and anytime anybody got married, there was a party going on, and I have such fond memories.
The weddings down there, everybody, you never catered a wedding.
Right.
Everybody brought food.
Yeah.
And that was it. I mean, it was like the way it's supposed to be, really. Right. And as you say, the locals had a band, and you'd walk in to the band to be setting up, and they'd just come out of the field, so they got cow shit on their boots. The place stinks like, oh my God. Yeah. I just finished cleaning the hogs.
Right. Gutting some pigs.
But it was a really laid back, it's kind of, you look at it and you think, who needs money when they may do. Nobody had any money in that town whatsoever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were dirt farmers basically. Mm-hmm. And yet they had fun, and when they made do with what they had. And to be honest with you, it was far more fun than what you could buy in a big city or hire or something, and much better. So it was great. We really enjoyed those.
I actually feel very lucky the fact that you guys got divorced. I can't believe that you was, but between my maternal grandparents and my paternal, your parents were more financially, on the ball than, so we got country folks and then we got more high end. So I got the best of both worlds because I could go visit you and then go visit your parents in North Lake where they had that beautiful home right on the lake. And we had a sailboat. We christened the Tanyalee.
The Tanyalee, yes.
That's where I got my love for boats and being on the water and, getting the itch every summer from the bird shit in the lake. It would cause you skin rash.
The itch. It was called the itch.
It was called the itch.
Every year we'd get the itch.
Loaded up with calamine lotion.
Yep.
Every year. Yeah,
there was people say, it's snails. No, it's bird shit. No, it's this. No, it's that. I don't know what it really was.
Some sort of bacteria in the water certain times of the year.
But the water, when we lived there, we're talking. My dad bought a cabin that was 2 little bedrooms and a little kitchen and a little living room and a screen porch. The porch was the biggest thing on the front, and it was like 10 feet from the water. And he bought that with about 2 or 3 acres, and I guess that was back in the early 50s. Mm-hmm. He bought that thing, Trout Lake, and he bought that, and then it evolved. Eventually, tore down that cabin.
So that property was where the original small cabin was, and then they built that bigger house. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
And that evolved into that house that they had there. Was a kit house. It was called a panabode, I believe, and it was a cedar kit house. You bought the walls, and you got everything except you had to do your own plumbing, your own electricity, everything electrics. But the walls, interior, exterior walls, the roof, everything was included in this kit.
Yeah.
And
but when you said cedar, that house had such a unique smell to me.
Yeah, it was all cedar.
Yeah, and when you said that, because I didn't realize, and also the big stone, was the stone real stones or was that just fake?
There was a stone fireplace, which that fireplace. But
didn't when you walk in big stones on the floor? I can't remember the flooring to be big.
There was you saw it after it had been modified.
Okay.
The original house was just sitting like this, and then it sat back, and the property ran uphill like this.
Yeah.
So when they built that, they built it further back from the water, on the side of the hill.
Yeah.
And they kind of propped it up with cement blocks and cement pads and stuff. The fireplace that when they put the original house in, my dad contracted this guy who I'm not sure how he found him, but he was a stonemason.
Oh, okay.
And he was known for his stonework. And it took him almost a year to build this fireplace. Mm-hmm. He had to get the right stones and everything like this. And he put them in, and this thing was probably 10 or 12 feet across and went floor to ceiling. Okay. So it would be 10. Those were 10-foot ceilings in there. So it was a huge fireplace.
Yeah,
and
I vaguely
double
remember.
flue in it, and beautiful, and a great big opening for fire. And the guy did he was probably, when he built that, he'd probably in his late 70s when he built it. Yeah, so he's probably long gone, obviously.
I remember they had the Big Ben, or I called it Big Ben, but the clock.
It's in my house. Right?
Ding, 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 ding.
I've got that same clock in my house.
Ding. That whenever I hear that tune, it takes me right back to my childhood at Grandma and Grandpa's.
Well, I've got that same clock.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's gonna be a hand-me-down.
Getting back to Winnipeg, though, it was. I guess it was. 75, Jill was born?
She would have been in 76.
76, Jill was born. And then I joined the airline in 72. And that's when we had to move from Winnipeg. And you guys, when I went on course, I went when I joined Air Canada, you have to go through this school, and that was about 2 or 3 months of classroom and simulator and stuff. And I was in Montreal for that, doing that training when you guys stayed there. But then, and they don't give you a lot of warning telling you where they're going to base you.
Yeah.
So that's when because it's done in seniority, and your seniority is given out either by marks, or in our case, it was by age.
Okay.
So, and then the senior guys got to choose where they wanted to go, and then as it went down the list. But I wanted to go to Winnipeg because that's where where we had the house and everything like that. It didn't work out that way, so we had to go to Toronto.
You went to Toronto, but we stayed in Winnipeg, and you commuted. Is that how that worked? Did we move we didn't move to Toronto, did we?
You went from there, and then you and your mother and I decided to call it quits.
Yep. And then we moved over to, we were living in a house, you left, and then we sort of downsized, moved about a mile and a half away in that like condo complex. It was like an estate, bunch of condos all lined up. And I went to Alexander Ross for 7th grade, and I have never been bullied worse in my entire life, because I went to, Lakewood Elementary was kindergarten to grade 6, and I knew everybody, and I went from kindergarten to grade 6. And, then all of a sudden I go to a school that is kindergarten to grade 12. And so a lot more kids.
We didn't buy that house. I try to figure out, when we came down to Winnipeg, we rented a house in Winnipeg first. We didn't buy the house until.
But we lived in that apartment complex right by Polo Park.
Yes, but before that, we had a house.
Okay. I remember that little tiny house.
Yeah, little tiny house.
Oh, I loved that. Was on what's the name of that street? I remember going by there. I have been, because yep. And Deb and Mel lived down the road, down from there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. And then we went to that apartment.
Then we went to Polo Park.
And that, I have a recollection of me from that. So I was probably a year old. I guess I must have swallowed a penny. I was I don't know how, kids put things in their mouths. Well, I have a recollection of Mom grabbing me by my feet and running up and down the hallway screaming bloody murder because I had swallowed a penny and she was trying to get it out of me. One of the neighbors came out, somebody stuck their finger up in my mouth and it came out, but she just lost her shit. And I actually have like a memory of that happening, and that was at the Polo Park Apartments.
All right, so before the Polo Park, though, we had that, when we first came to Winnipeg, we needed a place to stay, and we rented that little house.
Yeah, I remember that.
And because we got that house, which is we tried to buy it, but they had already sold it.
I remember that house.
And so we went from there over to Polo Park, which actually was quite nice because at that time, it was the shopping mall was right across the street. And it wasn't like, I haven't been back for years, but I know that thing is a huge, huge mall. And at the time, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers football team were across the street as well. So you could look out the window.
Yeah, I remember the stadium being right there.
So, but it was great for shopping. I mean, just walk across the street. Hey, see, this is.
It doesn't have to be super. I mean, we're free balling it here. So I mean,
we were in Polo Park when I joined Air Canada.
Okay.
So we came. That's right. We came down from Thompson. Got that little house. Then went to Polo Park.
Yeah.
And so we were in Polo Park, and I got laid off.
All right. Yeah.
It was in November of 1971. And I know this because I'd never been laid off in my life. Mm-hmm. I got laid off. We were coming into the winter season, and there was a real downturn in work. And we had sold some airplanes and everything else. So I got laid off. And I remember saying, now I've got this kid and I've got a wife, and I've got no income.
Yeah, that's be stressful.
Winter, a lot of jobs were in flying were seasonal.
Yeah.
Summers were busy because of tourists and everything else. Then the winters, they just dropped right off. So a lot of companies laid off and hired, hire in the summer, lay off in the winter. My company didn't normally do that, but they did this. And because I had moved down from up north, I could have kept my job if I'd gone back up north.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that. So I got laid off. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do now? I've got no money. I've got nothing. Mm. So somebody said, well, go on welfare. So I go, what's that? I had no idea.
Yeah. So
they clued me in all this. So I went down to this government agency, and I explained my situation. They said, oh, we need a letter from your company saying you're laid off. So I got that and went back. And the lady said, now we're into early December. And she says, well, you're going to have to look for a job. And I said, well, good luck. I said, do I have to take any? Oh, no, you have to do what have you been doing? I said, a pilot. Oh, okay. And I said, trust me, if I get laid off here, everybody else is laying off too.
Right.
And she goes, okay, well, we'll check into that. So she said, in the meantime, you can collect unemployment insurance. And it was going to be like $100 a week or something like this. It wasn't very much. And I remember coming up on Christmas, and we had no money. I mean, we had some, but not much. And we got a knock on the door, and it was a guy with a turkey. And part of being on unemployment insurance is you got a turkey. Aww, so we had a turkey for Christmas. And then between Christmas and New Year's, I got a telegram, and it said that I had been for interviews with Air Canada, and now I'm hired. Oh. So out of all this misery and this, thinking, oh my God, there's nothing left in life here, I'm getting laid off and everything else, I got hired by Air Canada. So, and I started my course in February, the middle of February, with Air Canada. So I had January. I spent December and January on unemployment insurance / welfare.
Yep. But you got a turkey.
Yeah, and a free turkey.
We can close. I just want to tell one more story, is because the Air Canada Christmas parties were a thing, and I have a recollection because they used to have the Air Canada Christmas parties in an airplane hangar, and they would bring all the funfair rides and stuff like that. And I don't even think Jill was born then, so I had to be like 3 or 4 years old. And I remember apparently that year you were the Santa. You dressed up like Santa, and I was having none of it.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you were
cut back then, but
but I guess Mom put me on your lap, and I did not like this man whatsoever.
I don't blame you.
Screamed my head off, and then you guys put me in on the ride where it's like a swing, and you're all on swings together, and it swings around, and I just started projectile vomiting as it's swinging around.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that was because I get motion sickness way too easy, which is not great when you're a little person, getting tossed around a lot. But
they had those in the hangar. That was a big hit with everybody because there was so much room, obviously, in the hangar. And, of course, the kids loved it because there's airplanes around and everything else.
Yeah.
You never get away with that today with security and all the things that go on. But
one of the other benefits to having a dad as an airline pilot, and also, traveling as much as I did, I was a kid that took their lunch to school. And back in the days, you had a lunchbox or a brown paper bag for your lunchbox. Mm-hmm. Well, what I learned was flying around, they've got the air sick bags in the back of the seats of the airplane. So I started collecting air sick bags because they made great lunch bags because they were coated in the inside and my frozen juice wouldn't drop through the bag. And so I was taking my lunch to school in air sick bags forever.
You're puking.
There we go. Nobody would touch my lunch though. So
that's true.
Yeah, there we go. So that was
lunch
benefits.
Protection blend.
There we go. All right. Well, I think we're gonna probably wrap it up for this first episode of Wings, Wheels, and Wisecracks. So yeah, this is going to evolve, Dad. We're just going to have fun and just going to be ourselves and talk about our life and our adventures.
I think we're going to, between the two of us, we've been to probably over 100 countries, and we're going to probably go through some of the stories, both what Tanya's experienced and what I've experienced and what we've done together, because we did a lot of traveling together, and and some of it's pretty exciting. And
and hopefully you're still in it too. So hopefully we can end up taking this on the road and having some real life experiences traveling together and keep going and documenting this.
My dear. Okay. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Well, see ya. Don't forget, like, follow, and share. This is new. We need to get the word out. So please spread the word and share the videos and hit that subscribe button and whatever else you're supposed to do with podcast shit. So we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.